All right, welcome to Lost in the Queue. So, Lost in the Queue, I came up with this idea because, I had Netflix for years on end, right? And I had so many shows, movies in my queue. So, I had a mean backlog. Also, same thing with Amazon Prime, Hulu, all these streaming services we have. So I just go and I watch random movies now. So it's some gems in there and some movies that and shows that, it's not worth your time. So I'm here to break it down for you. So I'm going to be covering a lot of shows, a lot of movies that really is not getting talked about in the mainstream like that, or might have been briefly mentioned a few years ago. But I'm going to do the popular movies and stuff too. But that's the premise of this. So today, I got a special guest, my homegirl, Miss Baba. How you feeling today?
I feel absolutely fabulous. And before we say anything or go any further, I just wanted to say happy birthday to us because we're both Taurus babies. You're the 11th and I'm the 16th. So, happy birthday.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Another fact is Taurus is the best sign. I mean, it's no debating. It's really. I mean, if you disagree, you wrong. Everybody have an opinion. You're entitled to yours, but not in that case. I mean, that's like saying two plus two is not four.
Exactly. Like you said that perfectly. That's like where Funk Flex did bomb, drop the bomb and be like, these bars is just straight facts.
Definitely, definitely. So, what I want to talk about today is right. We both watched the Amazon Prime series Them, and I know a few weeks ago a lot of people was talking about it. There was major backlash with the show. What's crazy is it was Amazon number one ranked show for a while, but as far as the critics and just the general fans is concerned, a lot of people didn't like it for a lot of different reasons. Mainly, people kept throwing out this term black trauma porn, and they felt like not only them, but a lot of the movies that feature black people is black trauma porn. You could go back to Antebellum. You could go back to Birth of a Nation, 12 Years a Slave. And people are saying that they sick of these type of movies. So what I want to ask you first, I want to get your opinion on them. Do you think it was a creative way to show the black struggle, or do you think it was black trauma porn like people is saying?
Well, that's a good question. I think times like we come up with these terms, I'd be like, yo, kudos to us because we really be coming up with like the like the hot button topic words or
Hmm.
phrases, right? So to say that people feel that way, I just feel like I guess what they're referring to is the feeling that that these type of movies leaves them with. For example, like was there critique based on the actual like production of the films, or is it just because of like how the films made them feel, you
Mm.
know? So that's one thing to consider. And I just feel like, yeah, I think it's just more so how they are left feeling as opposed to like what was actually created, if that makes sense.
Right. I get what you're saying. You're saying it because sometimes it just messes with your soul, if you're into vibrations. My mother used to always say, don't watch certain stuff before you go to sleep. And sometimes stuff will just sit on your spirit and your subconscious. So I hear you with that. Um, for me, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. You
Mhm.
know, um, that's an old saying and it rings true because I actually like the show Underground. I don't know if you ever watched Underground before.
Yes, I have.
Right. So before it was canceled because it was bought by the station was bought by a conservative and they canceled it even though it was the highest rated show on the channel. But that's a whole different story. I
Right,
actually liked Underground even though it was in slavery. Why? It showed us fighting back. It
right,
wasn't just aka black trauma porn, or just showing us getting tortured. It showed complexity. It was very complex. So I actually liked that show. With them, not so much.
Really?
Um, right. I didn't like it. It's funny because I'm into horror movies, right?
Mhm.
I'm really am, but the way them did it, I just wasn't a fan. It seemed like you have a different opinion. You like them, huh?
No, I did because, to be honest, I feel like them was kind of like a different, I guess a different genre, to say so to speak, right? So like we have movies, like we have and I can't even think of his name,
Jordan
PMP.
Peele.
Yeah, right. So we
Hmm.
have him, directing, and then we have Lena Waithe on this one, on that, producing. And I'm just like, sometimes I think sometimes we're just so used to storylines that are depicted or dictated by um by white people, where we're not used to seeing our stories being told, right? And with that said, like, it's always going to be told in certain, in different ways, because we're not, like we stated, we already know we're not a monolith. So we have so much, we have, it's like a whole completely different experience when you start to watch movies that are actually like geppettoed by us, like puppeteered by us. So I think that even Us, the movie Us, was another prime example of that as well. Like, it just creates for it, it sets the tone for a whole nother genre, or a different like avenue or realm for us to view stories from, I guess, our perspective. But I think the main thing that a lot of people may have pushback about is because of the fact that it mixed in like our real life experiences as it pertains to history, and then even stuff that happens to this day, such as like systemic racism and just blatant out racism, you know what I mean, like on a regular basis. I know they specifically touched on like situations such as like redlining, for instance, and things of that nature. So I think it's a little bit difficult to see our truths displayed in a fashion where it's also like, I guess, dramatized in a way to make it, in order to make it a horror film.
Well, here was my problem with them. When I seen the previews, even the first episode, I actually liked, because it was touching on issues that don't really hit the mainstream too often. Not only redlining, they touched on steering. Steering is a practice where in real estate where they drive clients to a certain area, and also focused on blockbusting. That's when a certain ethnic group buy a house in a on a street, and then the real estate agents try to get the rest of the street to sell their houses. It's called blockbusting. So these was practices that still go on to this day, really, but it back then in the 50s, it took place all the time. Not to mention like rent to own, like you said, redlining. So I don't mind having movies cover these topics. It's the way that them did it. First of all, I really wasn't sure of the point of the show. Um, the ending wasn't satisfying to me. I don't know if you want to get into spoilers. I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler free as possible.
Yeah,
But
like that way.
even though it's been out for a while, most people probably didn't watched it by now. But
But
there was a
just think of the show Lost in the Queue, it might be in everyone's
that's
queue.
true.
Queue.
That's true. So there was certain scenes that I thought was distasteful. Um, I think you know what I'm talking about. Like in the middle of the season, when it comes to the child, when it comes to stuff like rape, I wasn't really feeling. Dude had what, a coon ghost following him around
Oh yeah, like when he was in the
in
restaurant,
blackface.
that conversation, yeah, with Sambo. That's what we call him, Sambo.
Right. He had a black face follow him around. And
Mm.
whether it was how he feel like society looked at him, or was it just a ghost, I don't know. Like, it was a struggle for me to even finish the series, to be honest. Like, by the time that came about, I'm not gonna lie, I was half paying attention. I was just like, okay, this is not even enjoyable to watch. Want if I didn't want to discuss this, I probably wouldn't even finish the series, to be honest. I really
Really?
didn't find it. Yeah, I really didn't find it entertaining. Um, and then once you get to the ending, you go through all this trauma, all this abuse, and the ending was just, eh, you know. I just wasn't feeling it, and I don't mind the black horror genre, right? I liked Us. Us was a good movie. I thought Get Out was a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you want to go to a series, right? I don't know. Did you watch Lovecraft Country?
I began to, but I kind of like fell off of that just because it's hard. Sometimes it's difficult for me to watch to watch TV, to be honest. But that's another one that I did want to get into. I think I watched like the first one or two episodes.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
so don't spoilers for me.
yeah, no spoilers, but Lovecraft Country um, talked about the issue of race much better and was still kind of in the same genre, but Lovecraft Country did it better than them. So, like, this not a original concept of, racist white people in a horror genre. Um, and like with Lovecraft Country, I had some criticisms of that too. It wasn't my favorite show, but I thought it was better than them. I just didn't like the way they did it. To me, it seemed like they were just trying to go for the most shocking um, thing they can go for and just run with that to generate controversy. That's what it looked like to me. Was not a fan.
Okay, I mean that could be true. I, another reason, like I was stating earlier, another reason why a lot of people would find issues with it is because of the way that it makes us feel. For me, I think it's a little bit difficult to. I understand why there's some pushback towards them specifically because there's um there's like a lot of underlying truths, right? Because it is like real shit that we actually had to endure and still do endure to this day. But then the way that it was, um, I think there may have been like a disconnect in how it translated over to film in the final production. But I will say that I really did enjoy it. Like I really
Um,
like it's so funny.
Hey, it's no right or wrong answer to this. Like, your opinion, your opinion. Everybody gonna have an opinion on this. So this is why these discussions is fun, because you can't say I'm wrong. I can't say that you're wrong. But just for me, like, a lot of stuff. This is a small spoiler, not major. Like, when one of the daughters painted herself white, I'm just like, what is this, man?
But
Like,
and like I understood that moment
I
because you have to understand like
I
this
get it.
this movie had a lot of like hyperbole, as does everything nowadays, right? Like everything has to be like hyper hyperactive, hyper like over sensationalized, right? But when even for that instance where she painted herself white, yeah, that was like dramatic, over the top, extra like OD. I'm not gonna lie, it was much, it was very much. But at the same time, I understood the connection between Black people in America having to assimilate in order to be accepted, right? I'll give you an
Y-
example. Oh, I don't know if I want to give this
I,
example.
I
Like,
I get it, but like, white people is not the actual color of white.
yeah, but
Like, and I get it for dramatic
that,
effect and like showing that she might be losing her mind, but it's just like, really?
but even, but I actually did love that scene because even think about it, like it seems like so dramatic, but how dramatic is it? Like, of course, there's some people that I mean, of course, they're not gonna do the same thing as she did and like paint her skin white. But how many people do you know or have you come across or seen in the world that actually puts on that white skin in their mind, like mentally?
I get it, but to me, it just yeah, it didn't hit for me.
It was too much.
That wasn't hitting for me. Like you have other stuff. You had man, if I go further again to spoilers, but you had like what family members and ovens, all sorts of effery. And I was like, man, I was like, what is this? Was the point of this? I don't I don't get it. What you have racist ghosts, like I mean, like come on, man. Like I said, Lovecraft Country has something similar too, but like it was done a little bit better. Yeah, like I said, it's just a fan. I'm just not a fan, and more so, I think them is an example of like stuff that people don't want to watch. This is the type of thing where I can agree where I'm just like, we really don't need this type of showing. Like, because the payoff was even worth it to me. The ending payoff wasn't worth it.
Okay, so let me just backtrack and ask you. When you say that we don't need this type of showing, do you mean for Black consumption or just overall consumption?
Overall,
Overall consumption. Okay.
overall, yeah, I wasn't feeling it, and I know there's backlash because people still think that there's limited roles for black actors and type of shows that we get. I think it is getting a little bit better because I remember what a few years ago there was almost nothing, but I think within the last few years it actually has gotten better. It's not to the level it was in the 90s where I thought
Yeah.
that
I,
was the peak.
I didn't. Yeah.
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 And
Face.
yeah. And so like I said, some of the concepts they was playing with,
Hmm.
if they would have executed better, I would have been on board. I just didn't like the execution in this
Okay.
at all.
For you, it wasn't the fact that they touched on these topics. It was just the way that it was, the way it translated over film, how it was executed, how like the different examples that they utilized, and what have you.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm really not trying to watch gang rape on film. I'm sorry. That's just me. you know.
That brings me to another movie too. That was, I guess, that would fall on underneath this topic of Black trauma porn. Like, shoot, and I just forgot the name of it. Oh no,
Your memory,
for Color Girls.
your memory is horrible.
You already know this. You've always known this. That's why I keep a notebook and I write everything down.
Well, I didn't like for Color Girls either. I
Oh,
really did not like that movie. It's partly because I'm like, gee, can we get a good brother in there? I guess they had one, I guess, decent brother in there, but he really didn't have a role. He just seemed like a normal dude in there. But all the other dudes in there were just like completely messed up. I mean, nah. You got dudes infecting women with HIV. You got dudes dropping kids out the window. I'm like, yo, I was like, and no other like really good black men to balance it out. Like, nah, I wasn't feeling for Color Girls either.
so let me ask you this question because I know that has been a lot of feedback for Tyler Perry movies as well. Like most of his movies, they definitely never show a good black male, and then if they do, it's always like the light skin.
yeah.
So in those aspects, like, or when we have situations like that, um, do you think for you, is it more so the fact that because you mentioned like you feel like you need more movies that like more positive portrayals of right overall. So, do you think that if, in fact, we had better representation overall in the media or via entertainment, would a movie like For Color Girls or Them or um, all these other movies that we would consider Black trauma porn, would they be received differently?
Well, let me get my position clear. That's what people been saying. If you talk to people on the streets, if you talk to people online, that's been the talk. My personal position is this: like the title says, now what you do is how you do it. I don't mind any of these subjects being touched. Like people saying that they sick of slavery movies and shows. To me, it depends on how you do it. For example, I mentioned Underground. I actually like the way Underground did it. A Harriet Tubman movie, I'll be down for. I didn't like the one that came out. I think that one was some BS. The one that it just came out with, but like, um, if they would redo a Harriet Tubman movie and really show how she fought back and how you know she was a more accurate portrayal of Harriet Tubman, I'd be down for something like that. I'm down for something with Frederick Douglass because he was brilliant back in
Mm-hmm.
those times. You know, sure, I'm down. I would be down for slave revolt movies
Mm-hmm.
where we revolt. But
Like the Nat Turners and like
yeah,
Django. Django
yeah,
was a movie as well.
Django was cool. Uh, Django was okay. Birth of a Nation. It, the thing about it, Birth of a Nation was cool. I liked it. I wish he would have called it something else though, because the original title of Birth of a Nation, it kind of conflated. Um, I think it would have been a bigger movie if it wasn't for those allegations that came out.
Right.
But yeah, it was cool, and like for me to know history, like you did see us fighting back, but it was a lot of rough scenes in Birth of a Nation, which I don't mind because that's accurate. Slavery was vicious, and you can't really whitewash it. So Birth of a Nation was cool. I don't know if you saw American Skin. That was another Nate Parker film,
I'm trying to
but
think. Not
it recently came out not too long ago. Was that?
no, I don't think I have. American Skin. I'm writing it. Like I'm putting that.
Yeah, American Skin. It was a it was a pretty decent movie. It touched on police brutality and police killings. It just center around. This is not a big spoiler because literally, like within the first scenes of the movie, Nate Parker's son get murdered by a cop.
Wait a minute.
And
One that they shot like a documentary with the two like teenagers.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
and they
start watching it, but I didn't finish.
yeah, and then they end up taking over a police station, and
Mm-hmm.
um, like I don't mind movies like that because that's what's going on. So again, like just as far as entertainment value of the movies, it wasn't perfect, but overall, I did like that movie as well. So like for me personally, yeah, touch on these subjects, but um, yeah, we definitely need diversity. Like I said, I do think it's getting better because you have Michael B. Jordan playing in roles where race is not really even a topic of discussion. Like I just watched Without Remorse. He was the lead character. It wasn't really a movie based on race, and we need those type of stuff, that type of stuff too. So I'm just down for a mixture. Even 12 Years a Slave, right?
Mm-hmm.
12 Years a Slave. It's a tough movie to get through as well, but it was based on the Fugitive Slave Act, which was one of the worst laws ever passed by the United States. Stuff like that happened all the time. Free free black men. Well, it shouldn't have been any slaves anyway, but free black men were captured and then put into slavery as a result of that act as well. So I'm a history buff, I'm down with that type of stuff. But for some of these subjects, for me, it's better as a documentary than actually watching it as live action.
That was going to be my other question. So you already answered that for me. Thank you.
Hmm. Yep.
Like, better, would it be more beneficial to have it just blatantly as documentaries? But I also understand that not everyone is into documentaries. You know what I'm saying? So I understand the need or the want to portray it in more entertainment, in I guess a more entertainment or entertaining way. Um, but in any event, I have another question for you.
All right. What's that?
Now, when we get into these situations where we say, for instance, like we're having this conversation now, right? And we're like, okay, well, you said you're not the hugest fan of them, right? I love it, but I understand, right? And there's a lot of people
Fan
that
of what?
them.
Kind of breaking up a little bit. You said what now?
I said you stated that you're not a 100% a fan of them, the
Oh yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Now, my question is, there are going to be things we disagree on and things that we do not particularly care for, right?
Hmm.
But what I want to dissect also is how much criticism should we be giving to these movies, because we've already fought, like, it's a struggle even today to try to get our movies and our stories made and created.
Well, if you put out some BS, yeah, you need to get criticized. I'll go back to them.
How much? Because of the fact that, yes, like like, I feel like it's two worlds that we live in, right?
Mm.
So, like, of course we still, like, in our in the African diaspora, we can be like, oh yeah, that shit was whack, or like they could have did better with this, that, and the third. But as it comes to having these conversations with the larger majority, should we be expressing how much, like, as much criticism?
It
Because
depends on what it is.
we're also
Mm.
fighting to be able to get, you know, to get seats at the table, basically.
Well, it depends on what it is. To me, them was trash. So yes, I'm just going defecate all on it.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like yo, blackface in 2021. Again, I mean, we saw Bamboozle. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Bamboozle did this what? When did Bamboozle come out? Like 2000 with Damon Wayans. Did you watch it? I don't know if you ever saw Bamboozle.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Bamboozle was a movie where they brought back the minstrel shows in modern times, and it was Damon Wayne idea. He thought he was gonna get fired, so he wanted to get fired, so he came up with this idea, but instead the white executives actually loved the idea. They all actually brought back a modern day minstrel show two um with two dudes that was down on their luck. Tommy Davidson was in it. They was in blackface. Um, it was a mess. I mean, we already seen this before, right?
Mhm.
So after Bamboozle, I really don't need to see another blackface for what? Not to mention one of my cats about to make an appearance too, but not to mention the other stuff we didn't even really get heavy on in that series.
Okay, so let me ask you a question also,
Yeah.
because uh JayZ 444,
Hmm.
he had the same Sambo characters in his video.
Hmm.
Did you have that same reaction to seeing them then?
No, I didn't. I thought, you know why?
Why?
If you listen to the lyrics um, of OJ,
Hmm.
of the song,
The story of OJ.
yeah, if you listen to the lyrics of the story of OJ, it fits. And he was talking about some real economic power. He was giving game. He was dropping game in it. So no, I didn't. With them, to me, it wasn't anything uplifted in it either. It
Mhm.
was just a bunch of um, shocking incidents after shocking incidents, more racist stuff after more racist stuff with like I said, very little payoff anywhere in any episode.
Now that I could definitely agree on, because even though I know, I mean, if you know history, then you know, or if you're conscious in America now, even today, you would understand that we have been victims of racism. But I think that there's a, like you're stating, there's a difference between being a victim of certain things, but and laying down with it, as opposed to being like the overcomer in those certain situations. So if you do have stories that portray in that light of telling something that is very true, leaving out the fact that like we didn't just lay there and take it. You know what I mean? Like we also fought back, and these are the ways that we fought back. So if you do not express that particular dynamic, it does leave you feeling like blah.
Yeah, and the story of OJ made sense. Them didn't make any sense at all. Zero from the beginning. Like, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to get to just a little bit of spoilers, right?
Okay. Just
So after that incident happened in North Carolina, right?
mm-hmm.
You know what happened with
Mm-hmm.
her kid?
Yep.
Do move her to an all white neighborhood.
Okay.
That makes no sense. Like, just writing wise, that makes zero sense. There's no logic to it.
Okay, so wait, before we even go any further on that, let me just state that at this time, it was like what they called it, like the mass exodus. Mass exodus, where millions of Black people were fleeing from the South to go to more progressive areas. Everyone was going up north, going out west, and what have you, right? So that was the thought process. My only concern is that, especially if you know what you have um, experienced, not only for yourself, but for your family, your wife, and your children in the South, I would probably do more research before like really transitioning my whole family, because there was still certain areas, better areas they could have gone to, right? But then also at the same time, I think about it like this, like if like someone had to be the first, right? Because if you say Compton now, you're not thinking an all white neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
How do you make that transition eventually?
but we talking about within that story. Within
Yeah,
that story, what happened to your wife and you moved to an all white neighborhood in context to that specific story? It
right,
makes no sense.
right. No,
Just
I.
writing wise, it is not even logical.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I think I just put a little bit more context because I was aware of like the time frame, the time period,
No, I
and
know all about like the mass exodus and um Black people in the South migrating up north into the West for factory jobs and better
right.
opportunities. But
They
yeah,
and at that time those
even
kids was supposed to be quote unquote more progressive, right?
but
But you're
even in that context, it still makes no sense.
right.
It makes it literally makes zero sense. So like it them was just bad all the way around to me.
I'm still holding on to hope. I think it was horrible. I don't think it was horrible.
Yeah.
I can put that on.
We beg to differ on that one. That joy is trash. Like
Look,
really,
to have that. That's not even what I'm mad at.
right there we go. Shout out to Arsenal, right? But yeah, but yeah. So like I said, it's just not. It's not what you do; is how you do it. Because people have the same criticism of all these hood films, right?
Mhm.
And these low budget hood movies or drug dealer movies that people like is similar. Well, I won't say similar, but some people have those type of criticisms of those type of movies too. It's sick of those as well.
Well, I will say some of these low budget movies are classics. Like, I don't even understand why people sleep on Soul Plane. That was a hilarious movie. Soul Plane, you got Paper Soldiers. It's like, why you like?
Kevin. Yeah, Kevin Hart before Kevin Hart was Kevin Hart, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, I don't know. Paper Soldiers was. I don't even know how to feel about that.
All
Shout out to Rockefeller back in the day, right?
yeah. The Rock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That Beanie Siegel and Kevin Hart, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah, Kevin Hart came a long way, right?
No, he surely has. He
But
surely.
but nah, but what you think about those type of criticisms too? To me, it's just like, all right, I get it. I do want to see people bring new stuff to the table, but I'm not going to automatically just dismiss something if it's a good story. Now, if the story is garbage, the story is garbage. It is what it is. You know, they deserve criticism, but like I'm not going to dismiss any type of movie offhand. Again, it's just how you do it. Are you bringing anything new to the table? Are you discussing something that never been discussed before? Even if it's a niche topic in the same type of genre, there's many different things I look at. Um, so, but that's just me.
Yeah, and one thing I will say also is that sometimes people do because they know that you feel some type of way, whether good or bad. Because like the old adage where they say like no pub no pub no all publicity is good publicity.
Right,
You know,
right.
people are talking about it whether you love it or you hate it, you're talking about it. That's what people just make sure that occurs. And I think even if people had a lot of backlash, it made some sort of wave because people either loved it or hated it. But here we are talking about it now.
I don't know. I don't want to see a second season. I know that.
That'll be another thing in your queue because we have to have another conversation about it if it does come up.
I'm not watching the second season.
Oh my God.
Like it
All
was
right.
a struggle. Like I wanted to turn it off. Like I think around episode 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, this is a struggle. How many episodes left?
You know what? What I will say is if you don't like it, how about you come up with your own black
Yeah,
porn movie?
yeah. I'm not doing black trauma porn, but you want me to make a movie? Yeah, just like you got a couple milli for me. I'll be
I
down to do it.
Oh, I could get a couple people together, a few people
Uh,
together. We could work on that. I'm
yeah,
so
even a few 100,000, we could do something. you know, but
I could do it for half of that.
yeah, like I'm down, but like yeah, them not it.
All we need you to do is write the storyline,
Now,
and um, I got some people I could.
yeah. Now, one of the things I want to do, right, is really push shows that I like, because a lot of shows that I'm actually into end up getting canceled, right? For
Oh,
Life, it was a great show, right? Just got canceled. For those of you who don't know, it was a show produced by 50 Cent. It was about a lawyer, and it's loosely based on true story. Um, it's about this lawyer who was wrongfully convicted, and while he was convicted, he earned his law degree and started representing other inmates. Got a whole bunch of inmates off on their cases, ended up with his own freedom. Um, Great series, man. But unfortunately, after 3 seasons, it's canceled. But I know 50 said he trying to get it to a streaming platform because it did much better on streaming than it did on network television. So black show, man, like that, like a show like that, right? It's a black show that showed the reality of the black struggle, reality of racism, but us fighting back,
right, right,
right? And not even physically, but like through the system. So like shows like that, it's needed, man. So we need to support those type of shows when it comes out, and it's entertaining. Because
right.
that's the thing too. I'm not like, yo, I could read a book if I want the information, right? But so it have to have some type of entertainment value too. It was entertaining as well. So unfortunately, it got canceled, but hopefully it find a home soon.
Right. And that, I mean, that makes sense. I think that's a good way to I guess like wrap up the conversation, because it's true. Like ultimately, it's okay to tell our stories, but then just mindful in the way that you present the information so that it shows the full spectrum of our problem, our issues, our experiences. That's what I say.
Right.
Problems.
Uh,
It's the on the other end, the opposite end of us actually
right.
overcoming.
Yeah, I just want to end it by saying that, okay, I get people feelings on why they kind of sick of these type of stories, but one thing we have to be careful of is not fall on either extreme, because a lot of these issues are more complex than people give credit for. Um, I get it. Like
Hmm.
some every time there's a slavery movie or some movie showing black trauma, oh, it's a masterpiece. No, it's not.
Right.
Then you have people that's an automatic backlash. Oh, another slavery movie or another movie where we subservient. I'm sick of that. I'm just like, okay. It just again it depends on how you do it, because it is part of our history. We have so much more in our history than that too. So
Right.
don't get it twisted. Those stories need to be highlighted more, because yes, the trauma is definitely highlighted more than the other aspects of our history. But we have to be careful to not ignore what happened in the past, because you'll be surprised at how many black people are ignorant of our own history. It's a big problem. So we don't want to go too far to the other extreme as well.
That's facts. And I just had one of my friends tell me earlier that, I don't know, he ran across a video or article or something where someone was claiming that like the concept of Harriet Tubman and people like her was they were actually fake characters um created by Congress. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's disgusting that we actually have people of our ilk are these horrible and false narratives on purpose intentionally to mislead other people. So if you are one of those ones who runs across this type of information, please do not look at it and think that it's fact in any way, shape, or form. It's just
I I did not know that was a thing.
yes. I
That's
just found
breaking news to me.
literally just heard that today, and I'm like, there's no way. But then, like, if I don't mention it and say like it's not real, there'll be people that will really like take the information and be like and run with it. Spread it to more people. It spreads like wildfire. So when I hear some craziness, I always have to like just put that out. The last thing that I have to say is just that I was just gonna wrap it up by saying like the game is not fair, right? Like we're sitting here and we're talking about like the way our stories are portrayed and not being able to have as much say or space at the table or rooms at the table or a seat at the table as it pertains to being able to tell our stories or just overall in society. But one thing I will say is that we already know the game is not fair. The one thing that you cannot do is give up, because if you don't play the game, you're automatically going to fail. So you just have to know exactly what the game is and act accordingly. You work and you play around
Mm,
it. You know
yep,
the hand that you're dealt, right? Fair or not, we all have a hand to play. Play that
definitely,
until the wheels fall off. That's how.
definitely. And the one other show that I want to give props to as well, that I think handled these issues well, had a combination of everything, was Watchmen. I don't know. Did you watch Watchmen with Regina King
Uh-uh.
on HBO? Yeah, that's my type of stuff. I love action. I love seeing people get kicked. I love seeing like people getting punched in the face in movies. Like, yo, if sometimes the plot don't even have to be all that. It just have to make sense. And if it's good action, I'm there. But Watchmen had a good plot, had great action. Yeah, you need to check out Watchmen. That was on HBO. That came out. Was it
Oh, that,
last year? Or was it a couple of years ago? But I'm in the comics too, so that you need to check that out. Regina King did her thing in that.
so look, and okay, so for today's show, Lost in the Queue, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
Watchmen. I have to watch Watchmen. I have American Skin, and I also have Bamboozled. So I have three. I have
Yeah,
to watch right now.
yeah. You might have to watch something else after watching Bamboozle. That's one of the soul sucking ones.
Oh Lord.
Goodness, I mean, American Skin is kind of it's kind of like that too, but Bamboozle, whew, that's tough. Your man Most F is in Bamboozle too.
Oof.
But anyway,
Watch
um,
Disney Channel after that.
those joints. So that's lost in the queue for the day because I just got done watching Jupiter's Legacy. I know you don't know nothing about that.
No idea.
Yeah. So I can't ask you. It's another one of those superhero shows, right? I know
Oh,
that's not your favorite genre, so I can't ask you whether you think the utopian philosophy held back the Union.
but now because you posed the question so eloquent, I feel like I have to be able to answer it. So I might have to watch it so that I can answer your question. But don't ask me any more questions
Yeah, I know. I don't think that's a show you're gonna be into, but I'm into those type of stuff. Like I said, I love action.
about that.
Yeah, like I said, I love action, so I'm into all that type of stuff. All
Right.
right, but that's the show for the day. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, share, share. Did I mention share?
Mm-hmm.
All right, peace.
We out.